The fishing news is brought to you by Shoreline Insurance Agency.
Win the incredible Steigercraft, Evinrude, Loran's Grand Prize Boat Package, and more in the Fisherman's 2018 Dream Boat Fishing Challenge. Get the details at thefisherman.com.
It looks like the winds will be down this weekend, and that's good news for anyone looking to get a last shot at fluke, with Sunday being the last day of the season. The marine forecast is calling for light northwest winds on Saturday and Sunday, so between fluke, sea bass, porgies, triggerfish, false albacore, blues, and stripers, there should be plenty of options for inshore anglers this weekend. It looks like the weather forecast may also allow some crews to finally get offshore and hopefully track down some tuna. If the tuna don't cooperate, mahi and shark should be a good option also. And if fishing isn't on your agenda, stop by the Tobay Boat Show at Tobay Beach on Ocean Parkway. It will be there tomorrow through Sunday, noon to 6 on Friday, and 10 to 6 Saturday and Sunday. And be sure to swing by the Fisherman Booth under the tent and pick up a pair of Star Fishing Pliers for any new or renewed subscriptions. The October issue of the Fisherman magazine is out now. Captain Kirk Fay has a great article on cashing in on striped bass with matching the hatch. Captain Tony Gatto writes about the fall chunk bite offshore. And Paul Stowe shares some great insight on shallow water black fishing. These are just a few of the great reads in the October issue of the Fisherman magazine. Now let's get to the reports. Let's hear from Tom Michalowski from Montauk.
Thanks, Tim. The full run is definitely still a effect down in Montauk. The only problem is the weather is curtailing us guys in boats. I know the surfcasters love these northeast winds, but they don't do much for us guys that like to get out in boats unless you really want to get your butt kicked. Hopefully we'll get a little nicer weather coming up. But there's a lot of false albacore around, chasing sand eels. You can run and gun them. You know, they were to the west of the lighthouse, and then they were also to the east of the lighthouse in the deeper water. Basically, just look for the splashes on the surface and the birds. There's plenty of small bluefish around, and there are waves and waves of stripers moving through. One tide you won't catch too many. The next tide you'll catch them anywhere from 20 inches to 32 pounds. I did very well Sunday night on live eels. We started out jigging Sunday evening in the daylight, but that didn't do too well for stripers. We ended up catching 3 false albacore, a bunch of porgies, and a bunch of bluefish, but no stripers. So, you know, the full run, schools are moving in all the time. Make sure you got your diamond jigs. 4 ounces seem to be about the best. If you're on a boat, that's the way to go. And hopefully the weather lets us fish a little bit. It really hurts in the full when the fishing's good and we're tied to the dock because of crappy weather. Hopefully things will get a little bit better next week.
In Shinnecock, we have Mike Dean. What do you got going on, Mike?
Thanks, Tim. The weather definitely put a damper on things over the weekend for anyone looking to get offshore and to the wrecks. If you guys did venture out on Sunday when the conditions during outgoing weren't too bad, some sea bass, some porgies, really nice sized porgies too, but once that tide changed, it was time to get back to the dock. The albies have shown up, and they just, what a thrilling fish to catch. Deadly dicks, hold your epoxy jigs, reel as fast as you can, and don't be scared to throw a couple of blind casts. We got to our spot, second blind cast, boom, we got our first one of the season, and it was just awesome. Still some stripers in the surf, mostly schoolies, taking small bucktails, but at night there's so much bait around, so much peanut bunker. The big ones are going to show up, if not this weekend, definitely soon after a little bit of this cold snap. All right, have a great weekend and catch them up.
Let's check in with Brendan about the Fire Island area from Capture Fuel, Bait, and Tackle.
Thanks, Tim. With albie season upon us, we've had plenty of action off the beach in boats. Thin tins are the way to go, just like my buddy Will here. This is the last week of fluke. Decent fluke action off the pier and boats. There's been keepers in the back bay, which has been great since this weather has been keeping us inside. Spearing and squid is the way to go. I was going out there with gulp, couldn't catch a thing, and the guy next to me was doing spearing and squid, pulling them up, so I got a couple of bites after that and ended up catching one. So that worked out. There's also weak fish east of the lighthouse on jellies and jerk shads, so that's some fun action. Blowfish, porgies, kingfish on the docks. Great for kids because snapper season is starting to slow down now. At night or during the day, if you guys want to go striped bass fishing, clam chumming is the way to go since the bay is turned up. But it's cleaning up, so that's good after this storm. Friday it's going to clear up, 5 mile an hour north-northwest. Saturday 10-mile-an-hour north winds, and Sunday 5-mile-an-hour southwest winds. So pretty decent action this week. This weekend's supposed to be awesome, especially for the last week of fluke. So get out there, guys, and thank you very much.
Let's check in now with Joey Leggio around the Island Park area. Joey, what's the word?
Thank you, Tim. Reports from Deb's Inlet. Really not much going on. The wind has been really bad. The rain, I'm sure you guys will see it. This week's been pretty bad. 2 times I did get out. I snuck out, had a little break, or even fished in the rain just to bend a rod. You know, you're fiending. You want to get out there. You want to catch something. So one day I took my son Frankie out, hit the back bays. We had some nice stripers, some nice bluefish. Nothing big on these stripers, but let me tell you, 10-pound test, little tiny rods, spinner rods, it's a blast, especially when you're taking your 4-year-old son. He had a blast doing it. It was fun just to get out for an hour, and that's one thing that's going on. The other thing is we hit the bridge, took my buddy Chris out, again, breaking weather, ran out, and we hit bass and bluefish down by the bridge, which wasn't bad, on Atlantic Beach Bridge, that was. Just using small lures, swimming lures, little bucktails, little artificial rubber lures. That's it. That was the ticket. It worked good. But talking to other buddies, it seems like still the bottom fishing, if you can get out, that's still probably the ticket right now. The sea bass and porgies are still pretty good. And that's really all I've been hearing. Don't have many offshore reports. I don't really think anybody's going with this weather. But that's basically it for the report here.
From further west, let's check in with Luke Feeney from Jamaica Bay.
Thank you, Tim. Hey folks, it's been a really windy and rainy week. Not the best weather for getting out there and going fishing. But you can take advantage of this downtime by checking your inventory of tackle for the fall run. Check all those plugs, make sure you got some nice fresh and razor sharp hooks on them. Check the line on all those reels, spinning reels and conventional reels. Make sure you got some nice fresh strong line on there, because the fall run is one time where you do not want to have tackle failures. The fluke season is closing here in the upcoming days, and although I cannot report much quality fluke action in the last couple of weeks, here in the West End it didn't really seem like we got those big quality fish at the end of the season like we're really used to. We really had all quality short action the whole season, but it really seemed like the quality fish were Eastern Mauritius, and we didn't really get those big quality fish, which is okay. Well, maybe we'll get them next season. The albies have moved in. They're by the jetty, Reese Park, and by the Rockaway Reef. They're mixed in with the cocktail blues still, so don't throw those expensive albie lures just yet, because they're very mixed in, and the shots are that you're going to get a couple of albies are kind of slim still. Maybe you want to wait another couple of weeks before you really go and try and target those albies, but they are here and you might be able to get a few. There's a cold snap coming this weekend. I think that'll really spark the fall run action very shortly in the next upcoming weeks. Get ready for those big bass on the eels, big bluefish, and all the other fall run predators. That's it for this week, and until the next time, tight lines.
To find out what's going on around the Staten Island area, let's check in with Mike Manuel.
Thanks, Tim. Hey, fishermen. For this week's fishing report, gotta say, porgy is still in effect. They're catching decent-sized quantities and size, between 30 to 40 per man, within a few hours. Hit some structure, especially the rock piles. And as far as striped bass goes, it's hit and miss. Sometimes, you know, these charter boats out on the bay are doing a good job of eeling and finding nice pods of bass. Some days you go 3 to 4 days without catching a single bass. But the temperature's cooling down. The water temperature is still in the 70s, low 70s. Expecting a nice cold front. Also, the target dates that I have in mind are October 15th, which is the first quarter of the new moon. So that should be a good time to go out for striped bass. In the meantime, keep you guys posted. Get out there, get your hook sharp, and catch some fish. Adios.
Aaron, what's going on around Manhasset Bay this week?
Hey guys, the fishing on the Inshore has been pretty good, with lots of blues, snappers, and schoolie bass. If you want to get a really good bait, go snapper fishing, and then towards sunset into the night, live one of those snappers, and you are guaranteed to catch a nice sized bluefish, and maybe a nice sized striper. But the stripers seem to be hitting at night, evening, and overcast rain weather on soft plastics and top waters. Crankbaits work well. Big largemouth are being pulled out of Oyster Bay's Mill Pond if you want to catch a trophy-sized largemouth bass.
From Eaton's Neck, let's check in with Peter Tarnowski.
Thanks, Tim. There have been rumors of albies hitting the North Fork, and this is not fake news. The rumors are true. We went out to South Hold this weekend with my buddy Mike and our kayaks. We drove about 80 miles each way and braved some pretty snotty weather, definitely not kayaking weather, to go hunt these albies. If you've ever caught albies, you'll understand why. When you catch an albie, they'll whip your rod back and forth. Your drag will be screaming as they try and get away. We got there to get out at the beginning of the incoming tide, and at the beginning it was very slow, but we were hitting on a lot of sea bass, actually some monster sea bass. My buddy Mike got a 21-inch, 4.5 pound nice sea bass. The last hour and a half of the incoming tide, the albie blitz started happening, and from that point on there were blitzing, and we did well. We were able to hook into a few. We were using a combination of epoxy jigs, metal jig fish, and also something called an albie rocket, and with a nice fast retrieve out in the water, throwing right into the blitzes. It's tough because these blitzes don't last long. They were coming to the surface probably for a few seconds, then that's it. They would disappear, and then they would show up at a different spot. Just cast right into them, retrieve real fast, let that lure skip across the water. We're definitely going out there again over the next few days to look for more. Back to you, Tim.
Aloha from Hawaiian Dan. Dan, what's going on in the North Shore?
Aloha! Doesn't that just make you feel good? I'm Hawaiian Dan from TalkFishTV.com, reporting for the Fisherman magazine. This morning out here live off the central North Shore of Long Island, where I've searched from Port Jeff Harbor up through behind me. Yes, beautiful Rocky Point, looking for stripers, bluefish, albies, or baitfish hitting the surface. Now I haven't seen anything as of yet, but that's because we've had pretty inclement weather, and I'm still pretty hopeful. The good thing is that this weather should have chased the baitfish or pushed the baitfish out of the inshore areas, through the inlets, and out to the coastline where it will turn on those blitzes. Not to mention the weather is going to improve from here on out until the weekend, so it's going to be on like Donkey Kong. Earlier this week I had a chance to fish off the Captain Whitaker out of Captree with some family and friends. And surprisingly, there's definitely no shortage of keeper fluke this late in the season, which ends September 30th, so this is your last weekend to get out there and get some flatties. Now, I must give credit where credit is due. My cousin Jeff schooled me with a 20-inch keeper. Now, on the freshwater side, the beginning of the fall changeover is in full effect, as these freshwater bass are on a non-stop feeding frenzy, and I mean super hungry, eating everything in sight. Most definitely because they're getting prepared for the winter season. Now this week's shout out goes to an incredible national kayak fishing group called Yak Tribe. They can be found at yaktribe.com, on Facebook, or on Instagram, of course. The thing that impressed me most about these guys is that once they found out one of their most devoted members of the Yak Tribe didn't have his own yak, they secretly chipped in together to purchase him one and drove 8 hours just to deliver it to him. Now if that isn't the sense of aloha, I don't know what is. Now listen, if you want to take your angling to the next level and become a part of this incredible community, look for and sign up for these wonderful groups. Most especially this local one that we have, the Long Island Salt Savages, a great group of guys that are going to help you take your fishing to the next level and back you up on other things as well. So until next week, this is Hawaiian Dan reminding you to get off those couches, grab those rods, and get out there and fish. Now back to you, Tim. Aloha.
Let's get a surf report now from senior fisherman editor Fred Golofaro.
And yeah, Tim, there's definitely been an increase in activity pretty much all around the island, but I have to say it's primarily small bass, small bluefish, hearing very few bluefish over 4 or 5 pounds. Most of the bass are shorts. A few areas have some fish up to 30 inches, an occasional 32-incher, but big bass definitely lacking all around the island for that matter. From Breezy Point to Montauk, the inlets, and a lot of stretches along the open beach producing decent numbers of schoolies, and in some areas decent action with small bluefish also. Those small bluefish make great eating, by the way. Those 2 to 4 pounders are perfect. Fillet them, cut all that red meat out of them, dip them in some milk, breadcrumbs, put them in the frying pan. They're really good, trust me. The North Fork has come alive. Actually, Montauk's come alive also with albies. We've had them at Shinnecock pretty good, but this past week, the inlet at Montauk and some of the beaches along the North Fork, a lot of albies, and I know a lot of guys have been waiting to hear that. And it looks like we're going to have a repeat of last fall, which was really good with the albies. Just remember, you want to go light, small, and when it comes to your leaders, throw away the 30, 40-pound test leaders. You want 15, no heavier than 20-pound fluorocarbon. They have great eyesight and they can be real fussy at times. There's lots of bait everywhere. I mean, everybody I talk to is talking about bait. I mean, there's peanut bunker, there's bay anchovies, aka white bait. There's spearing in some areas. There's sand eels in other areas along the ocean front. So it could shape up to be a good fall. Hey, I'm praying that some big fish show up, but I'm trying to be realistic. I think the bulk of the action is going to be with these small fish, unless something changes dramatically. We had the Montauk Classic this past weekend. We just filled the bluefish and striped bass categories. The biggest bass there was a 39-pounder, but the next fish was 22 and then 17, and those were the only fish weighed in. And then we had in the bluefish category a 7 and 2 6s take first through third place. So, you know, scale down your tackle, enjoy these small fish. Eventually they're going to become big fish, and we should have some good fishing a few years from now. But there's nothing wrong with catching these small fish on light tackle. Make sure you carry a light rod with you. Carry the big rod as a backup. And like I said, I'm praying some big fish show up this fall. Let's see what happens. Till next week, Fred Golofaro here for thefisherman.com.
We have another new correspondent, and he's covering the freshwater scene to the west end of the island. Chris Ludwig, what do you have for us?
Thank you, Tim. This is Chris Ludwig from Coastal Memories Fishing. Check it out on YouTube and Instagram, reporting for the Fisherman. So this past week, a lot of my time has been committed to back bay fishing in the back of the 5 towns in East Rockaway. And the killer bait this week and, past years is Kitech Paddle Tail. There's another one called the Easy Shiner too that we love. These guys have been catching during the day and at night, bluefish, bass, quality fish too. It's been fun. The open surf hasn't been bad. I fish a lot closer to Jones Inlet when I go on that side of things. And I've been throwing my first light sweeper jigs and then a lot of my topwater arsenal. It's been working out nicely. I wasn't out there as much as I'd liked, but it is what it is. And as far as freshwater goes, we've been catching a lot of pickerel on purple bass assassins and lunker hunt pocket frogs. Those are the real small ones. Other than that, I don't really have much. I hope you guys get out there and fish. Thanks again to the guys from the Fisherman, and have a good one.
Good weather windows are becoming a little tougher to come by now that the fall-like weather patterns are beginning to take hold. When the conditions are right, sharks remain a good option. In fact, the fall traditionally produces some quality makos. And while the nearshore run of mahi was short-circuited by the swells generated by Florence and several bouts of strong easterlies, there may be some other options. I heard of some action on the wrecks in 120 feet of water south of Montauk. Big blues bonito on topwater plugs. Great action. The last of the offshore tournaments of the season in the area is set for October 13th. Scott at Bergen Bay Docks in West Babylon is hosting a shark tournament for the largest mako and thresher. There's also a bluefish Calcutta. The captain's meeting is 7:30 p.m. Friday, October 12th at Bergen Bay Docks. You can sign up there. For more info, visit bergenbaydocks.com. Upcoming events, we got the Tobay Boat Show the 28th through the 30th. And on October 12th through the 14th, we have the South Shore Surf Fishing Classic. And October 13th, Bergen Bay Docks has its first annual shark tournament. And then October 13th through the 14th, it's Bergen Bay Docks' third annual striped bass tournament. We've got quite a few changes in the Fisherman's Dreamboat contest to win that Steigercraft boat. Be sure to check out the current issue for the latest standings. If you'd like to be part of our weekly video fishing forecast, we're looking for social media savvy anglers for hyperlocal reporting from around the New York Metro and Long Island area. So if you're a captain, tackle shop, or just an avid angler, contact me at libayrat@gmail.com. For links and more information, be sure to check out the video's description on YouTube. Remember, like our video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and be a subscriber to the Fisherman Magazine to be part of the Dreamboat contest. Get out there and catch them up. This is Tim C. Smith for thefisherman.com.